Greetings, I'm glad you could join me. Today we're going to talk about the average rate of change. We're going to look at the slope and we're going to look at examples to talk about how it all comes together for average rate of change. Let's get started. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's start talking about slope. So what I want to do is draw a curve, a real sketchy, obviously looking curve. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at different slopes along the curve. So let's say I were to grab these 2 points. And if I were to connect those 2 points with a line, you could see that the slope between these 2 points is going up. It's a positive slope. That's the average rate of change between those 2 points. So let's change the 2 points. Let's say I'm talking about this point and this point. And you could say if I connect, boy, it's hard to connect these using this tablet. Okay, but if I connect these, you'll have to forgive me there. If I connect these look fairly flat, right? If I connect these 2 points, you could say that that looks like it's 0 or very close to a 0 slope. See, it really does depend on which points you choose along the curve, depends on what the slope is or average rate of change of those points. So if I grab these 2 points, you could see that those 2 points form a negative slope or a negative rate of change. Okay, these are important as you'll see in the next section. So last section we looked at the visual representation of slope, and now we have the more formulaic look at slope. You know, in algebra class we often talk about sloping m. It's the slope of the line of y equals mx plus b. Well, you know, we're going to call it the average rate of change. It's the same idea, right? And when you're doing the average rate of, or calculating the average rate of change, you're using the change of y's divided by the change of the x's when you're specifically talking about 2 points. So the little subscripts, ones and twos, that just represents 0.1 and 0.2. And this is going to be clear as we move forward. So we're going to calculate the average rate of change, otherwise known as slope, on the interval from -2 to 3 for 2 different functions. Our first function is in a table form where you have x's in the first column, y values in the second. And then for our second function, it's just written as a formula in function form. So let's figure out how do you calculate the average rate of change in these 2 different formats. So what's the average rate of change? Remember, it's just the slope. And it's change of y over the change in x's. So I've got my 2 points. I got from -2 to 3, right? That's what it says. These are x values. So I got from -2 to 3, it wants me to calculate the slope. So what do? You put y values on top, 8 and 3. And then you put the x values on the bottom, -2 and 3. And according to the slope formula, you subtract them. So it looks like I've got 5 over -5, and it looks like it's -1 is our slope. Easy peasy. Okay, now when it's in function form like g of x, this is not as easy because we don't have the y values readily available like we did in the table. We have to calculate them. So we are given 2 x values. And we don't know right now what the corresponding y value is, right? These are x values on an interval. So we'll calculate them. So the first one here, we have to take -2 and cube it. That's -8. And then we have to add -2. That's what that says. Cube it and then add the original number. That's -10. And there you go, we've got this number. Okay, now this one says we cube it. We cube the number, that's 27. And then we add the same number. That's 30. Okay, now we have x values and y values, and now we can calculate the slope like we did a moment ago. All right, so let's calculate the slope. So slope says y values on top. Does it matter which one we grab here first? No, just be consistent. So if I'm going to grab this y value first on top, okay, then I'll put the other one. Then I have to grab this x value first on the bottom. All right, so I got y values on top. I've got x values on the bottom. I've got the slope formula figured out, and I got to subtract these numbers. Now, careful when you're using the formula. Sometimes you'll end up getting double negatives. I haven't in any case here, but sometimes that does happen. All right, so what am I getting? I'm getting negative 40, and on the bottom I'm getting negative 5. Do a little division, and you get 8. And there you have it. Looks like we've calculated the average rate of change 2 different ways, or because we had to. One was a table, one was a formula. So what I'd like you to do is make sure you like this video. I would appreciate it if you did. And go to mathguide.com to check out our hundreds of videos, lessons, and interactive quizzes. You won't be disappointed, man, because there's a lot of good stuff there. I got algebra. I got trigonometry. I've got pre-calculus. Got a lot of stuff. I got that cool opening intro. It's the second video I've made with that new video. Oh, that intro. I'm loving it, though. Animated. Loving it. You're still here. I don't know. Go to MathGuide. I don't know why you're here. My dancing ain't good.